Good morning. This is the Blainsville Show, heard each week on a whole bunch of venues, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We'll also have it up on a podcast. And I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week we focus on the Asheville theater scene, as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Wendy Jones. And Wendy, you can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. Okay, and this is Wendy Jones, who I've known of, but I don't think I've ever met personally, or maybe we have sometime. But Wendy has appeared at stages from New York to Tokyo, has performed with artists such as the international renowned New York Voices, NEA Jazz Master Jamie Aebersold, legendary jazz guitarist Howard Alden, I know that name, jazz violinist and Downbeat magazine favorite Christian Howes, Christian Howes, the Page Brothers, Christian Gale, know that name, and it's sung background for the alternative hip-hop group Deltron 3030, and for Las Vegas impersonator Donnie Edwards, I know him too. She has appeared at Club Bonafide in New York City, the Jazz Arts Initiative, the Mountain Oasis Music Festival, the Spartanburg Jazz Festival, our World Festival, the Django Reinhardt Festival in Asheville, North Carolina, and now, Wendy Jones, you're appearing on the Blainsville Show.
I know, it's complete. My journey's complete.
We're going to have to change the bio then next time,
Yes.
next time I introduce you.
Okay.
In addition to singing with her own jazz quartet, she is the featured vocalist with the Asheville Jazz Orchestra, the Old 74 Big Band, the Russ Wilson Orchestra, the Michael Jeffrey Stevens Trio, the Richard Schulman Group, and is frequent guest vocalist with the Greenville Jazz Collective Big Band. And so the question I always ask Wendy when I meet somebody for the first time is, as a child, you grew up where?
Until I was 6 in Follinsby, West Virginia. And then we moved to Hendersonville, Tennessee. And we lived there until I was 12. And then we moved to Hendersonville, North Carolina in, I think, February when I was 12 years old.
Oh, so when you were a child and growing up, 6 years old, 12 years old, whatever, did you always know you wanted to be a vocalist?
Yes, I did, but I was too afraid to sing in front of anyone because I was too shy, but I always knew I wanted to sing.
So when was the first time you ever sang in front of a group?
In college.
Oh, that was the very first time. So as a kid, did you take like singing lessons or music lessons?
No, I had taken dance lessons. I started when I was 6, and then when I was 12, I joined the band and played flute. I used to love watching the Looney Tunes in the mornings, and I was fascinated with the music, and I wanted to know, maybe play that music. But I also was watching a lot of musicals growing up. My mom introduced me to all the Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals, and
Sure.
I wanted to sing. And when I was in college, my freshman year, I was in college as a flute performance major, and I made some friends that were singers, and so I used to hang out in the practice room a little bit and listen to them sing. And a couple months into school, my friend Chris, he would play piano, and he got me to sing for him. And I remember singing a song from a chorus line for him, and he said, "Oh, you should take voice lessons," which I translated into, "You should be a voice major." So the next year I came back as a voice major. I had never sung in choir. I did, nothing. And he said, "I said take voice. I didn't say change your major, but I did." And I really wasn't very good that first year, but I had a good and very patient teacher, and that was all focused on classical music at the time, and so it was after school that, I was able to kind of go more into music theater. But I loved the classical studies and my teachers, and I got all that training at Appalachian State University.
By the way, to give a shout out, the name of the teacher, is that teacher still around?
She's not anymore.
Oh.
She passed away. She was my teacher for 3 years. Her name was Sharon Papillon. And then I started with Dr. Julia Pedigo there. And I, even in graduate school, I stayed at App State because Julia was such a great teacher for me, and she's such a great teacher for so many. But also, you have a very personal relationship with the teacher, and I just knew that she could get me where I wanted to be vocally, so I stayed at App to get my graduate degree, and she's still around. She's still teaching at App State.
Well, the reason I have you mention that, so please send a copy of this clip to her, that
I will.
we mentioned her on the air, and give a shout out. That's so cool that she's still around and you mention her and you recognize her.
Oh, absolutely. And we're still in touch. And this is my little home studio. And up on that dresser right there, I've got a picture of my first teacher and of Julia and I
Oh,
together.
is
So
that cool?
my
Now,
inspiration.
so you went to Appalachian State. What was your first performance? Do you remember?
Yes. The very first performance that I did, was I the second or I think I was the third graduate. That was the role, third graduate in a opera called The Street Scene. And I had to sing one line. And I think I sang it like this. Oh, see, it's a wishing star falling. I mean, that was like, oh, that's too high. I can't sing that. So, but I improved by the next year, which was a good thing.
Now, do we have a clip of that first performance?
Oh gosh, no. That was so long ago. It's before video cameras were even invented.
Well, I'm so glad you're saying it now, though. So now you'll have a record of it that your very first performance recreated, all these years later.
That's basically what it was. I pretty much sounded just like that.
Now, did you do any along the way or in college? Did you do any musical theater?
I did a little bit. We did a lot of operas there, and so I did several operas. But they did do. We did two. Did we do two musicals, or did I do one? I know I did Once Upon a Mattress.
Okay.
Oh, and we did operettas. My first, a couple years after that, brilliant performance in Street Scene. We did The Magic Flute, and I was Papagena. And if people know opera, that's a great role to have. She's got one duet, but it's great. And then we did The Mikado and Pirates of Penzance, the Gilbert and Sullivan operettas, and like I said, we did Once Upon a Mattress, and I was Lady Larkin in that.
I know that role, sure. Have you done any since then? Have you done any musical roles in the Asheville area?
In the last 10 years, I've only done one or two because I focused more on my jazz singing. But prior to that, yeah, I did a lot of stuff at Flat Rock. Within the last 5 years ago, I was in Smokey Joe's Cafe at Flat Rock for the second time. I was also in Amadeus, and the director actually had me sing, but that was singing opera. But I've done Kiss Me Kate over there and Dames at Sea, and oh gosh, I've done so many things
Well,
at
I'm
Flat
sure
Rock.
I've seen some of the stuff. I see a lot of
Yeah.
stuff at Flat Rock.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit about that then, Wendy, in terms of your musical background. So you started out and eventually got into opera. Opera singers always amaze me in terms of how many languages do you know?
Well, I don't really know the languages. I know how to sing in the languages, and that there's a difference. You are trained to learn to sing. I can sing to graduate. I had to sing in Italian, Latin, French, and German, and then we also did Spanish. And yes, so I had proficiency in singing in those languages, and I did have to take German and French as part of my graduate studies. To get a better understanding of the language,
But is that difficult then to learn music where you don't know what it means, I guess?
well, if you don't know what it means, then yeah, it is hard. But that's why we had to do a translation for every song, and what we had to do was learn what every word meant. So if I was singing in French, I knew exactly what every word meant, but then I also knew what the general meaning of the sentence was. That was the fun for me, is kind of going in and figuring out what it meant, and learning what words to emphasize so you could bring out the drama, or you could make people laugh in a song that, they didn't even know.
How many languages have you sung in?
French, German, Italian, Latin, Spanish, Japanese, because I lived in Japan for a while. And have I sung in anything? I don't think I've sung in anything else.
Okay, pretty cool. So you were doing this, you graduated from Appalachian State. How did you get into doing jazz?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I've always kind of been intrigued by it. Didn't have a lot of opportunities, but I grew up watching the Tonight Show orchestra, and
Right.
I loved that orchestra, and that got me into big band, and had a desire for that, and of course, who hasn't listened to Frank Sinatra? I mean, I hope people out there have heard Frank Sinatra, but I was intrigued with that, and I guess when I first heard it was when I was in college, and I heard the big bands, our school play it there. And then I just started, about a decade ago, I decided really wanted to study jazz. And so I was trying to learn some tunes, and I did my first gig at a place called Oliver Twist in Asheville.
Oh, I remember it well, sure.
And my better half was on drums, and Zach Page was on bass, and Richard Schulman was on the piano. And I would call the tunes, and I didn't know the keys, and I didn't know how to get in and out. And I know that, like, when I finally got in, I would sing like the 32 bars, and they played for 5 minutes, and then I would go, oh, I guess it's time for me to come back in. And I'd somehow made it through that night. And they were having some fun and making magic that I didn't understand. And so that next day I texted Zach and I said, we're going to learn how to sing jazz. And I don't know. He said, well, maybe the Jamie Aebersold, which is so cool because that was the first jazz camp I ever went to. And then years later, I got to perform with him twice in 1 week. And so it was great for me to, kind of learn about jazz and understand the genre and develop an appreciation for it and what it entails. I think a lot of people fantasize about standing in front of the band and having a microphone and being, as cool as Ella. But I learned there's just so much more to it. And I actually have enjoyed learning it. And so I'm still doing it and still learning and still trying to grow.
So you've been doing jazz for about how long?
About 10 years now.
Oh, just 10 years. So I'll throw out a name to you. You probably know them. It was the Swingle Singers. Remember the Swingle Singers?
Yes.
Because I don't know, is that considered jazz?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'd love to see you, that's kind of a different kind of jazz. Or
The
I just
vocal
love
jazz
them.
ensemble. Yeah.
Have you ever done any of that kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. I did some other camps. I went to University of North Texas one summer, and then I went to the New York Voices camps a couple times. And we always, workshopped that. And in fact, on June 10th, a day I will never forget, June 10th, just 2 months ago, they were in Boone, and I was driving up to App State to hear them in concert. And I have been doing some songwriting classes with one of them. Her name's Lauren. She's the alto, and some arranging with Peter, the pianist. And I got a phone call, and Lauren was laughing, and she said, Wendy, where are you? And are you coming? Anyway, we have something funny to ask you, so give us a call back if you want to see what it is. So I called her back, and she said, Kim, the soprano, she goes, her flight has been delayed. There's no way she's going to make it for Downbeat. We are going to fill with some solo stuff, but do you know this one chart of ours? Could you get up and sing it? And I said, I think I do. But, there were parts where I wasn't sure. I said, she said, come up, get here as soon as you can. We'll do a sound check and we'll see if it'll work. And I had that recording on my phone, and I listened to it and sang it and picked it apart for 3 hours. I had workshopped it a year before with them, but workshopping it for 4 days is quite different than like getting it ready to perform. And, but I worked it in the car, and I got up there and we sound checked, and I got to sing it.
Okay,
and
good
it was
job.
great. So they're my favorite group. There's so many great groups out there, but New York Voices is one of my favorite.
Well, what I find interesting about your story, Wendy, or your background, is that, so you went to school, you performed for 10 years, but apparently you're still going to school all the time. Are you telling me you go to these camps and these workshops? And that's kind of interesting. So even though you're performing professionally, you're also learning, I guess, as you go along all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I've been taking songwriting and arranging and vocal jazz group arranging with Dr. Jeremy Fox and Michelle Weir, and because, I don't know, I love to learn, but I'm a firm believer that, you can spend your whole life and never arrive. And what kind of gets me up in the morning is figuring out what else I can learn today. So I like to learn things, and my workspace here is just covered with projects I'm working on and things I'm trying to learn. It makes me a better musician, it makes me a better teacher, and it makes the music more fun for me.
What I've been finding out lately, which I find interesting as well, is that several musicians actually are telling me they use YouTube as well to learn stuff. They learn how to play musical instruments, they learn how to do other stuff. Do you use YouTube at all?
I don't.
Yeah.
I really don't. I sometimes I'll put things up there because
Right.
if you have some videos up there that you can show to a potential person who might be booking, I need to get some new stuff up there. But that I kind of don't use YouTube. I'm still very old fashioned, and I have, you see these books here, there's another shelf equal size beyond the screen, and that's filled with all kinds of pedagogy books, and then another shelf on this wall. I like to read books and hold them in my hands. I do have some on an iPad though too. I have got
As a
an iPad.
musician, before an upcoming gig or as you're getting ready for a gig, will you listen or watch what other people have done with the song? Back to YouTube. You do Ella Fitzgerald, you do Sinatra, you do whomever. Do you make it a point to try to listen to how other people interpret it?
Yeah, when I'm first, usually I'll come across when I'm doing jazz, I know of a song because I heard somebody sing it and it really stuck out. And so I'll listen to it, but when I first started, I would listen to them a lot, but I found myself imitating them. And in
Right.
jazz, you really need to start to develop your own style. So I try not to listen too much now. I play at the piano and learn it. And of course, I listen to the greats. I try to listen, like if I'm doing a tune, I'm going to listen to Ella, and I'm going to listen to Carmen McRae and Sarah Vaughan, and I'm going to listen to instrumentalists play it too, or Sonny Rollins or Stan Getz or whomever, and get as many different ideas as I can, and then hopefully make it my own. That's the hardest part, I think. Because I learned to perform, and I did a lot of theme park, and you had to do it exactly the same every single time. So that's been the hardest thing for me in jazz, is learning how to really be in the moment and make it, of the moment every single time.
Well, you raise a good point too. I could just see it that in terms of if you hear 17 different people sing it, it's going to somehow come into, you're going to have to develop your own style, I guess, or way you play it, because you can't do all 17, simultaneously. Or that may be kind of fun. One time you do a show where you do a song, and have you ever done that? Sing it your way, and then sing it how 5 other people would sing it.
No, not exactly. In my cruise ship cabaret, I
Right.
do remember doing, taking, like, how would Julie Andrews sing "What's
Right.
Love Got to Do with It" by Tina Turner, or how would Ella, what's
Anybody,
the
yeah.
belter, sing, an aria or something like that. So
Oh, that would be fun, though.
Ethel
I guess.
Merman, actually,
Yeah,
how would
well,
Ethel Merman sing "Una voce poco fa"?
I can just see it. You also mentioned, and I find that kind of fascinating about you too, that you are also now a songwriter, or you've been a
Yeah.
songwriter.
Yes, I'm writing now. Yep.
Now, when you're writing, are you writing new stuff? Are you writing interpretations of old stuff? What are you doing in your writing?
Both. The arranging, when you take someone else's song and you try to rework it a little bit, that's arranging. And when you're writing the music yourself and or the lyrics, which is what I'm doing, writing music and lyrics, then that's composing or songwriting.
Talk to me about the process. So you've done some of that. How many songs have you written, approximately?
Not very many. It just
Not
started.
many,
I
just-
think 5 or 6.
Okay, super. So I've always wondered about a writer. So when you write in the writing mode, do you get up every morning at 6 o'clock and write for 2 hours? How do you do the writing?
Yeah, I wish I had that kind of time. No, sometimes, oftentimes I get different ideas. I have a little notebook that I carry around with me and my phone, and I'll get an idea and I'll jot it down. Or if somebody says something, a phrase that catches me, I'll type it into my phone. And these things kind of just germinate in my brain, over the weeks or months, and then I might just get motivated, and I'll sit down, and it just happens, But it doesn't just happen in that moment, because I am thinking on these ideas, and then I'll write some more, just a sketch of what I might like it to be like or feel like, and then just see what happens.
What was the first song you wrote? Do you
The
remember?
first song, the first song I wrote is going to be on my new CD.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was called something different back then, but I've reworked it. It's called Choosing Joy.
Great title for a song. And I always wonder that when you write a song, I ask this of songwriters, after you write it, does it change or evolve? Or does it become a finished product at some point in time?
I'm new to it, but I will say that already the tunes that I've written and I'm working on recording, I have changed rhythms or altered some words and things already, because you perform them, you sing them a couple times, and you go, oh, I can make this a little bit better. And so I wasn't sure I could do that, but then Lauren told me, she was like, "It's your song. You can do what you want." I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
Well, very cool. So you mentioned this is coming out when at some point in time?
I'm not sure yet. We're going back into the studio on August 13th to record two of other tunes that I wrote. So far, I recorded with Michael Jeffrey Stevens and Zach Page and Rick Dilling and Jason DeCristofaro. And we did a couple of originals and we did a couple of covers that I arranged. And this time, Andy Page on guitar and his brother and Rick. And then Rich Willie, who is going to play flugelhorn for me, we're going to do two tunes.
I know Rich, right?
Yeah.
Super. So that'll come out sometime. We'll have to.
Yeah, as soon as I have money, it's like I'm piecing this together. But I also want to make sure that when it comes out, I'm proud of it. People always say by the time your CD comes out, it should be obsolete because you should have grown. And I'm already looking at the stuff I recorded in March, going, would I sing it that way? But it is what it is. You just have to release it into the universe and let it be.
Well, do me a favor, seriously, keep me in mind because when you have it ready to be released, we'll do a show on that.
Okay, that'd be great.
Be a pre concert or pre whatever you're going to have release it. But I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, an online release party. Let's do it.
I'm trying to think I've done that. I've done things along those lines, but we could do that, or you'll have it at a club and then we'll do it online, kind of whatever. We'll talk, but that'll be great. So let's talk a little bit about then the a couple other things. So one of the reasons I had you on the show today is you're working toward, I guess, an upcoming show. You want to talk a little bit about that, Wendy?
Yeah. So Janice Guazzo down at the Hendersonville Theater, she had invited me last year to my one-woman show, Everything is Rosie, about Rosemary Clooney. And then she asked if I could do something else this year. And I have something. We had been asked Jason DeCristofaro, who plays vibes and piano and he plays everything, but in this program he's playing vibes, and Kevin Kerberg on bass and Rick Dilling on drums. We were asked to put together a program for a venue in Greenville, South Carolina, and I thought it would be perfect for the Hendersonville Theater so I entitled it Broadway Swings. So it really combines the two genres that I'm the most passionate about: American music, Broadway, and jazz. And so we're singing all those great American songbook songs from the great American musicals, but of course they'll be improvised and swinging, and and I hope the audience will learn a little bit about Broadway and a little bit about jazz in the process.
And when will that be?
It's going to be one day only, August 20th, which is a Saturday. We have two performances, one at 3 and one at 7:30. And tickets are available at the Hendersonville website. The website is hendersonvilletheater.org. And if you go to their website, they have drop-down menus, and they have shows, and we're under special events.
Okay, and we should mention too, you spelled theater the correct way. Is that correct? I think it's with an R-E, right? Hendersonville Theater. But I'm pretty sure.
Yes, I think that the
They do.
European way is R-E and the American way is E-R. I happen to like the R-E. I've always
Me
liked
too.
that ending, so I'm
Well, I wonder about that. What is it? That R-E is the theater, the name of the building or something, and then you're in theater, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know the difference. I just know I've always liked the way the R-E looked, so I just use that.
Well, the exciting thing too, you telling me off the air, that's going to be a whole different show than you did the Clooney show. I'm sorry I missed that one, but It's going to be just different kinds of music. What are some of the kinds of music that'll be in it?
Yeah. So the Rosemary Clooney, I told her story, and we did a lot. It was a lot of drama. This is going to be. Folks are going to learn a little bit about Broadway and history of Broadway, and a little bit about the history of jazz. But mostly, they're going to hear singing and playing. And we've got songs, everything from early music theater, Cole Porter and Irving Berlin, all the way through Sondheim, and some very well-known musicals, like The King and I, songs from The King and I, and songs from like My Funny Valentine. But then also songs from musicals that may not be as well-known, like Betsy. You know that musical?
No, don't know that one.
I promise you know the song that was added last minute that got 24 encores opening night. It was written, it's actually, I tell this in the show, this musical was written by Rodgers and Hammerstein, but Irving Berlin wrote a song to add in at the last minute. It got 24 encores, and that song is called Blue Skies.
Okay, yeah, I've heard it a couple of times.
Yeah,
but
Blue
that's incredible.
Skies smiling at me. We're going to be doing that.
But that's amazing. So the show didn't last very long?
Betsy, no, I forgot how few, but the song went on, forever. I forgot. I'm going to have to go back and look. I need to add that because I think it's an interesting fact. That it
But
ran
isn't
on
that
very
something, you feel for composers, you feel for people who do shows. Can you imagine, 24, you have all these songs and it lasts for a week or it lasts for 2 days or something. Can you imagine,
Kind of, I can imagine. I mean, I did a show called Hamlet the Musical one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seriously did. It was a paid gig and it was professional theater. And the opening song, not criticizing, I thought it was really fun, but it was poison. So that was the opening song for Hamlet. So we do what we got to do. And
Well,
sometimes
so
you
that,
win and sometimes you don't.
that show didn't last very long either. I take it, Hamlet the musical.
No, I didn't. But it was so fun to do.
But even you saying it sounded a little like Hamilton a little bit, that opening song.
Oh yeah, no, no offense to whoever I forgot. I'm sorry who wrote it. I had a great time playing Gertrude, playing the saxophone and being the singing queen, but it's not quite Hamilton.
Okay, not quite. So back to the show that's coming up at Hendersonville. The date again, Wendy, is going to be what?
That is August 20th. And Saturday, 2 shows only, 3 o'clock and 7:30.
And I encourage people to get there because it's just a cute little theater, and any seat you're going to have a good seat in it.
And one of the things that I like about that theater, because it is small and it's a perfect place for this type of show, because this is like a cabaret show. It's an intimate space. It's not a big production. It's talking and sharing, and it feels very much like New York, in one of those nice little listening rooms in New York. So it's perfect for what we're doing.
And in terms of what we're doing, I don't know if you'll be singing this particular song, but I asked you also off the air if we could just get a little sample. We've heard little snippets, but you have a little something else you could play for us to give people a sample of what Wendy Jones is all about?
Oh, you want me to sing something?
Yeah, if you would, please.
Okay, this is not in this show. I can sing something for you. My favorite composer, everyone who knows me knows that I love the jazz composer Horace Silver. And so this is a tune that he wrote called Love Vibrations. And my friend Andy Page, he plays guitar. He teaches at App State. He made a little track for me to sing to.
Okay, if you
So
would.
I'll try not to get nervous and see what happens here. And if you can't hear it, then we'll figure out the problem.
Great.
Emptiness surrounds my lonely heart, and life has lost its thrill. Wondering why my mind's been torn apart. Have no dreams left to fill. But then you came my way to wash away the gloom and show the strength of love. Love stepped in to gently plant its seed, and things began to grow. In my heart I feel there is a need, and I want you to know you are my one true love, the one I've waited for, and now you're meant for me.
Very nice.
Thank you.
What's the name of that?
The Love Vibrations by Horace Silver with Andy Page playing guitar.
And how many songs do you know?
I can't even begin to tell you. I really can't even begin to tell you. I mean, between Broadway and jazz and the music of, the 40s and doo-wop and 60s and Motown and disco and stuff. And I know some rock tunes too, and some country, like old country, like Patsy Cline, Karen Carpenter. I know so many songs. I just do. I love songs and lyrics.
And it always amazed me about not only singers, but actors as well. I assume you can pick it up pretty quickly. Like, how long does it take you to learn a song?
It doesn't take too long. If the lyrics make sense, if when I'm working on songs where they're kind of nonsensical or kind of funny, those are harder. Or if it's a foreign language and I haven't done my homework, it's impossible. But if this lyrics make sense, because if you listen, usually it'll tell a story, or there'll be every 8 bars there's like a chunk of a story. So you just have to kind of remember what chunk you're telling. Yeah.
The thing I wonder about you, Wendy, is that in terms of all the stuff you do you also have a pair of roller skates in terms of how you get from, so many different gigs? Like, in terms of just even reading about you, you play with about a whole bunch of local groups. Is that must keep you pretty busy?
Well, not as busy as you would think. I mean, the big bands don't. It's not like that's something that happens every weekend. Asheville Jazz Orchestra performs once a month at White Horse. In fact, we just had our monthly one for July, and we're going to do another one August 21st. Our gigs there are usually Saturdays or Fridays, but this one's going to be on a Sunday. Oh my gosh, it's August 21st, the day after the thing at the Hendersonville Theater.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're doing a big celebration of the big bands and the dance bands. So we're going to have a dance thing that night. But that's typically what happens. I have nothing for 2 weeks, and then I have something Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday one week. And it's like, oh my gosh, and I'm exhausted, but it's fun.
But you play also, it seems you play, about 6 or 7 local groups you sing with?
Yeah, Michael Jeffrey gets his stuff, and Richard Schulman has his stuff. And I did a couple CDs with Richard Schulman right before the pandemic. I've been working on one of Michael Jeffrey Stevens' CDs this spring too. He's writing music, and I've been recording that in addition to mine. And Russ Wilson performs about once every other month at ISIS Music Hall, so I get to sing with him. And actually, we're doing a gig this Saturday, but it's a private party. But yeah, so it comes and goes, and I love performing, but I also think that when I was younger, I tried to take every gig that came my way, right. And I wasn't feeling musically fulfilled, and I don't think I was giving everything to the gig. So I find myself not saying yes to everything. So because I feel that it's so important, I've learned to actually have time at home and time to recoup and refuel. That it's better to take fewer gigs and make all the gigs that you do, at least for me, really meaningful, and so I can give my best at those.
In the next 10 years, what do you see yourself doing? We have the one thing you're working on coming out. Do you have any grandiose plans or anything that you'd like to accomplish?
It's funny. People ask me about my plans, and I've probably my whole life, I've kind of been a live in the moment kind of person, like what interests me now. It's hard to think about what I would do in 10 years because I'm so focused right now, but I really am interested in this arranging for vocal jazz ensembles like the Swingle Singers and New York Voices. And so I'm working on that, and I published my first a cappella piece last year, and I want to do more, and I want to get better at it, and I'm still a novice, but I see myself learning more about that, and I would really like to get better at playing piano. And
so when the folks want to come see you, which I'm planning to do now, especially you got me so psyched telling me about all the songs you're going to be doing in that show, where and when is it again?
It's August 20th at the Hendersonville Theater, and that's on Washington Street. You can see the hendersonvilletheater.org, visit their website, and but yeah, that's August 20th at 3 and 7:30.
And if folks want to track you down or find out more about Wendy Jones, aside from the show at Hendersonville, what's the best way to find out about you?
Yeah, I have a website. It's wendyljones.com. Music, WendyLJonesMusic.com. And it's got bio and pictures and links to videos and different things. And it also has a schedule. I try really hard to keep up to date so folks can pop on and take a look and say, hey, oh, I'm free that Sunday. I think I'll go over there or whatnot. Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, I'd like to thank you for being my guest on this edition of Blaine's World Show.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing you maybe even in person. That'd really be cool.
That would be great. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.